One of the basic things that I have learned, and it took me a while to figure it out, was that if you don't have your basic needs met, that it's very hard to grow beyond and start talking about future and hope and achievement. Now, I've heard that in books, and I can quote, a guy named Maslow who talks about that. But when you live through it, it's very different. I was for a long time not in a position to buy a home, but renting places was really difficult because my neighbors didn't understand when my kid would have meltdowns and disturb their evenings or sleep, or would run out of the house because he was having a difficult time, or the landlord didn't like it if in his rage he would knock a hole in the wall. So we were always, on several times we moved. We had to move. We didn't have money all the time to pay for all the things I knew that he really, really needed. And the system's not equipped to pay for the things that are really, really needed.
At first, when Peter was diagnosed, he was very, very young, so we did not have services. What we relied upon was taking him to the emergency room at the local children's hospital. And Peter maxed out on his lifetime mental health insurance coverage when he was 8. So the onus was on us to pay those extraordinary bills that he was gathering by being in the hospital so much. And I don't think the hospital was really the place to be. And I think Pete would agree with that.
Yeah.
If you have services in place that are outside the hospital, number one, it's cheaper. And number two, it's also more helpful because in the hospital, they don't feel like normal, typical kids. It's harder for them. It's better to be at home. It's better to be with your family and in your community and getting services rather than being in the hospital.
Big time.
So, I mean, that nearly drove us down the drain to bankruptcy and beyond just because we had to pay those bills. And those bills, by the way, are still there. We're still paying that hospital off.
For the family, every day becomes a struggle living with a child with a mental health issue. And it's not just, we try to do the best for our kids, but it means not just the school environment, it's also, we're taking them to doctors. You have to take them out of school to doctors. They miss school. You go from one doctor to the next. Each doctor may not have the right answer. Each one will say, refer you on to somebody else. Then you're taking time off work. You have to use all of your sick leave to take your child to whatever specialist or doctor is the next recommendation person to be taking your child to. The cost for having a child with a mental health is not just the emotional part, but it's financial because you're driving all over. It's, thank goodness we have good medical. If we did not have good medical and we have no co-pays, we would have been in serious financial shape.
We had a couple of instances with our family where we were very lucky and providers found sources of money to just give us to help us pay our bills and to help us feed ourselves, which was an enormous gift. But it takes a dedicated worker to keep up to date as far as those sources of grant money or whatever and their availability, and then putting that together with families who need it. We didn't look like a family who needed it, but we indeed did need it. There was another instance where we were able to get several providers together to help Peter get a computer, which was nearly unheard of. Those are great things because a computer in his life makes all the difference.
Big time. That computer is just, it has helped me more than any of the services I've ever received.
We've got to support the strengths, the talents, the skills of everyone, and that if we treat everyone as a value to our organization, to our system, to our community, then we can see all that they have to offer, and certainly we can support them in sharing their talents, sharing their skills with the world.
It is important to feel valued and validated. My son said that he is the person who knows himself the best and that people should value that. I agree, but also as a parent, we are the people who know the best about our families, and that needs to be validated. It's been a great thing when that's happened in our lives, but it's also been harmful, very harmful when it did not. I remember when Pete was first being diagnosed, a pediatrician sending us to a parenting class and thinking, all the work we've put into trying to parent this little tiny kid, and he was really young at the time, doesn't mean anything to him. He thinks we've done it all wrong. Thank goodness when we got to the parenting class, the person who was facilitating it said, you've done everything the best way that it could be done, and you've gone above and beyond that. That was the validation we needed. And I changed pediatricians because I thought, you know what? I don't need that anymore. So I'm going to go to someone else who really understands the family and believes us.
I have watched over the past 10 years families go from getting one set of services that everyone gets, same thing, cookie cutter services. And now service providers are starting to think out of the box. They're starting to listen to parents more, and they're starting to do things that work for this family, and then with the next family, they listen and they get a plan that works for that family. And that's the thing that I'm most excited about, because families are all different. They could have the same diagnosis, but their family structure is different. So what works for one may not work for another.
Sanctuary is probably the most important coping mechanism that I have. Without sanctuary, I would not be able to function, because imagine not having that place you can go to just relax and not have to worry about your problems, even just temporarily. Some things that give me sanctuary in my life are, I have my room that is my sacred place where I'm allowed to just be me and be I can let my guard down in my room. I don't have to worry about being judged there. And also my video games are my sanctuary as well, because I can escape into a different world, and I'm in control in that world, unlike this world, the real world.
Your mood changes and your body language changes, and so people can really tell if you're in your sanctuary.
Sanctuary in my life has been savior in my life for both myself and my husband. I think that because we made that a priority, we made it. Sanctuary can be anything from taking a bubble bath. It doesn't sound like much, and it maybe is only 10 or 20 minutes, but just feeling whatever it is that makes you feel the peace and relief and anxiety kind of wash away. Water will wash that away for sure, but so with some people like myself would knitting or being around animals. We've had critters in our home because it suits all of us, and it's sanctuary for all of us to be around those critters. When people thought we were spending too much money on food for these critters, we thought, oh no, 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 money well spent, this is therapy.